You may never die. You will always be here. This is not nonsense. It's not chicken soup for the soul. This sentence, from one of the most serious interpretations of quantum mechanics. We're going to talk about it today. It can subvert cognition, a quantum immortality theory that makes you rethink life and death. Let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine you stand in front of a muzzle with a special device. The gun is connected to a quantum event detector. Pull the trigger every time. The detector measures whether the atom decays. If decayed, the gun will be triggered. If there is no decay, the gun won't go off. According to quantum mechanics, atoms before being measured, it is in a superimposed state of decay and undecay. Each has a 50% probability. Now someone pulled the trigger on your head. In the eyes of outside observers, the experiment is simple. There is a 50% chance that you will die. There is a 50% chance that you will live. If this experiment is repeated 10 times, you will almost certainly die. The probability of survival is only 1 in 1,000. But here's a creepy question. From your own subjective perspective, what happens? According to the multi-world interpretation of quantum mechanics, each measurement causes the universe to split into branches. In a branch, the atoms decayed. You die in another branch. Atoms do not decay. The key to your life is, you can only be in your living branch. Continue to experience awareness. So no matter how many times this experiment is repeated, you will always only find out, I am among the surviving branches. The first time you hear a click, it's okay for the second time. It clicked again. Still okay. The third time, the fourth time, 10th time, you all miraculously survived. From your subjective experience, you seem to become unkillable. This is the core concept of quantum immortality. Your consciousness always follow that path. The world line that continues to exist advances. In the eyes of an outside observer, you are already dead. They are holding a funeral for you. But in your own experience, you just go through a series of things. Incredible good luck. Sounds ridiculous. Right, but let's dive in. The quantum mechanical foundation that underpins this theory. Quantum mechanics tells us, before measuring, a superposition state in which particles are in all possible states. The most famous example is Schrödinger's cat. That cat that was both dead and alive in the box. This is not a metaphor. It is a real description of quantum systems. An electron that has not been measured, really in multiple positions at the same time. An unobserved atom. It is really both decay and undecaying at the same time. But when we open the box to observe, the stack is too collapsed. Cats are either dead or alive, no longer a mixture of the two. The key question is, why collapse occurs? What caused the collapse? This question has puzzled physicists for nearly a century. In the 50s of the last century, physicist Repair Everett offered a radical answer. Maybe there is no collapse at all. Maybe all possible measurements actually happened, just in different parallel universes. When you open the box, the universe splits into two branches. In a branch, cats are dead. In another branch, cats are alive. You see different results in both versions, but both versions are real. This is the multi-world interpretation, and quantum immortality is built on this foundation. If the multi-world interpretation is correct, then every possible event, it's all happening in a branch. Every time you cross the street, there is a branch. You were hit by a car and there was also a branch. You pass safely. Every time you get sick, there is a branch in which you are healed. In a branch, your condition worsens, but your consciousness The experience can only continue along those branches where you survive. You may ask, what about aging? Even if accidents and illnesses can always be avoided, that body finally, or will you age to the point where you can't maintain consciousness? This is the most bizarre inference of quantum immortality. If this theory is correct, so from your subjective point of view, you will find yourself always in those places. Your brain can still maintain consciousness online. Maybe you will experience miraculous recovery again and again. Maybe you will find out, I have lived until now. Humanity invented the future of reversing aging technology. Maybe you will become that statistically impossible one. People who live to be hundreds of years old and still sane. Because in those world lines where you die, there is no such thing as death without you. Death, by definition, it is the end of consciousness. And if consciousness ends, there is no subject to experience the state of death. So you can never get a first-person perspective. Confirm your own death. Imagine what that means. You now, you who are watching this video, probably already in your life journey. He has died countless times, in countless parallel worlds. You have lost your life in all sorts of situations. Car accident, illness, or accident. But you didn't notice it, because your consciousness exists only on this world line. This is the world line you happen to survive. From a statistical point of view, this world line you are experiencing, the probability of existence is extremely small. You dodge so many dangers that should have been deadly. You recover from so many diseases. You are at so many key moments. The right choice was made. If only someone could see all the parallel worlds, they would say that your luck is outrageous. Okay, a little unscientific. But for you, this is the only reality. Because you can only exist where you exist. This theory leads to some disturbing inferences. First of all, if you really can't experience your own death, so what happens next in your life? It will become more and more weird. You may find, I have experienced a series of statistics, lucky events that are almost impossible. You may become the one who survived the plane crash, the man who miraculously recovered from a terminal illness, the miracle of being unscathed in a fatal accident. Secondly, this means the world around you, it may become more and more abnormal. Because over time, those normal world lines, those world lines where you will die naturally, it no longer contains your consciousness. Your consciousness is forced to follow those that are becoming more and more rare, and the branch you are still alive advances. In these branches, something very unusual may have happened. Only then can you continue to live. For example, the life expectancy of an average person is 80 years. When you are 80 years old and still alive, you've already filtered it out, a large number of possible world lines. When you reach 100 years old, the world line you are in is even rarer. When you reach 120 or 160 years old, the world you live in, something very special must have happened. Perhaps a breakthrough in medicine. Maybe it's some kind of uniqueness in your personal genes. Perhaps a series of incredible coincidences. From the perspective of an outside observer, what they saw was that most of them died normally. But from your own perspective, you will find, I am always in those exceptional situations. You are that statistical outlier. But there is a deeper philosophical question here. If consciousness, that's really how it works. So what exactly are you? In multi-world interpretation, there are countless versions of you at every moment, exist simultaneously in different world lines. At this moment, in some parallel universe, there is a version of you doing something completely different. There is a version of you who died 10 years ago. There is a version of you made different life choices, living a completely different life. So which one is the real you? The answer is that it's all you. Every version is real. All have a complete subjective experience. This led to a particularly brain-burning result. In a sense, you are indestructible, because there is always a certain version of you, continues to exist in a certain world line. But in another sense, your concept itself is vague, because there are countless versions of you in a different reality. At the same time, different stories are interpreted. Let's go one step deeper. Quantum immortality also led to one profound questions about time and memory. Your memories shape who you are. The reason why you feel like you is because you remember your past. But in multi-world interpretations, which world line is your memory? The answer is your memory. It must come from the world line you are in. This is the world line you survived. Memories of the world line you died. You certainly can't get it, because in those world lines, you don't exist anymore. This means your memory automatically filtered by a kind of survivor bias. You only remember the experiences you survived. Events that were supposed to kill you. Either it didn't happen in your memory, or you remember that you were lucky to escape. From this perspective, when you look back on your life, what you see is always a continuous life. The way to existence is even in the objective multiverse. You may have died countless times, but in your subjective memory, your life story is always about survival and continuation. This begs a troubling possibility. Maybe you've been alive for a long, long time. Maybe your actual age is much older than you remember. Maybe your memory has been modified or reset by some mechanism. Let you always feel, I am at a normal age. Sounds crazy, but think about it. If you really have lived for 500 years, but every 100 years, your memory, it will be discovered by something that has not yet been discovered. Neurological processes reset. How would you know? You will only remember the last 100 years and think that this is your whole life. Of course, these are pure speculations, but they point to quantum, a central paradox of immortality theory. If this theory is correct, we should see some very old people, unbelievably old, but we don't see it. Why do those who oppose say it? This is the fatal flaw of the theory of quantum immortality. If everyone cannot experience their own death, so from everyone's subjective point of view, I should be exceptionally long-lived. But apparently when we look around, most people die at a normal age. The response from supporters was, from the perspective of an outside observer, people are indeed dying normally. The theory of quantum immortality does not say that your body will not die. It's that you can look at it from the first person, experience your own death. For everyone who has died, from their own subjective experience, they still live in a certain branch. It's just that those of us who are alive cannot access that branch. It's like a huge selection bias. We can only see that some people who died normally because we are on this world line. But for those themselves, their awareness has been transferred on those branches where they continue to survive. But here's a more subtle question. If quantum immortality is true, then as you get older, the world line you are in should become increasingly strange. Because only in those very rare cases, you can continue to survive. Maybe you will start to notice something wrong. Maybe you will find yourself experiencing more coincidences than usual. Maybe you will find out the world around you, it seems to be evolving in a very strange way. It always just happens to keep you alive. Some proponents of quantum immortality believe it. That's why some older people say the world has become different. not just because of the changing times, rather because they have indeed slipped in some world lines with a very low probability. Of course, this may just be a normal cognitive bias. The human brain, it is good at finding patterns in random events. We tend to take chances to believe that you are special. Now let's explore something more practical. It is assumed that the theory of quantum immortality is correct. This will deeply affect your life choices. But first of all, it doesn't mean you can act recklessly. Although the theory of quantum immortality says you cannot experience your own death, but he didn't say you don't experience pain. If you jump from a tall building, in most world lines you will fall to your death. In your own subjective experience, you will find enter the branches you survived yourself on. But that could well mean you will experience extreme pain, long-term disability. There is also a long recovery process. Quantum immortality does not protect you from suffering. It just says that your consciousness will continue. In fact, in a sense, it could make things worse, because you might find you are trapped in those things that you have not died. Another miserable world line. Secondly, quantum immortality has a negative impact on how we face death. A new perspective is proposed. Traditionally, we fear death because it means the end. But if quantum immortality is true, then look at it from your own perspective. There will never be an end. Your consciousness will continue forever. Always find yourself in the next moment, then the next moment after the other. Is this comforting? Maybe it means you don't need to fear that ultimate darkness, because from your point of view, it will never come. But it can also be scary. It means you can't really escape. No matter how tired you are, no matter how much you want to end it, your consciousness will be forced to continue. Always find yourself waking up at the next moment. Some have described quantum immortality as a curse, a kind of obligatory eternity. You are trapped in existence, can't really leave. All you can do, just swipe between different world lines. You are still alive when you are always experiencing the next moment. This begs a deep philosophical question. Is eternal life really a blessing? If you know you can never die, how this can change your attitude towards life? Maybe it will make you cherish every moment even more. Because you are aware of this particular world line. This reality you are in now is unique. Never repeat. Maybe it will make you more courageous. Because you know whatever happens, a certain version of you will move on. Or maybe he will make you feel a kind of existence in the exhaustion, a kind of boredom with endless continuation. Let's go back to science itself. Is the theory of quantum immortality really tenable? First, we need to be clear. This theory relies on the correctness of the multi-world interpretation. And the multi-world interpretation, although it is gaining popularity among physicists, it is still just one of many interpretations of quantum mechanics. There are other interpretations. For example, the Copenhagen interpretation. It is thought that the wave function has indeed collapsed, instead of the universe splitting. If the Copenhagen interpretation is correct, then the theory of quantum immortality is not valid. When quantum measurement occurs, only one result actually came true. Other possibilities disappear. If you die, you will die. There is no other branch that keeps your consciousness alive. Secondly, even if the multi-world interpretation is correct, quantum immortality theory, there are also some technical challenges. The biggest problem is, what exactly is the relationship between consciousness and quantum measurement? Quantum immortality hypothesis. Consciousness always follows those branches where it continues to exist. But why? What mechanism ensures this? how consciousness chooses the branch it wants to follow. Or, each branch has a version of consciousness, and we just can't experience it. Those branches that we don't exist with. There are no simple answers to these questions. As a matter of fact, the role of consciousness in quantum mechanics itself, it is in physics and philosophy, one of the deepest unsolved mysteries. There is also the question of what counts as death. If your brain is damaged, most of my memories and personality have been lost, but there is still some form of consciousness. Is this your continued existence? Quantum immortality theory. Will it direct your consciousness to such a branch? If so, quantum immortality may not be as good as it sounds. You may find yourself in consciousness, trapped in a severely damaged brain. I can't really think. You can't really die either. This is quantum, one of the most troubling possibilities of immortality theory. Maybe he will not give you a healthy and fulfilling eternal life. Instead, it will put you in a worse and worse state, but always retain some minimum consciousness. From this perspective, traditional death is a gift. He is a clear endpoint, a moment to put an end to pain and decline. So should we believe in the theory of quantum immortality? The honest answer is that we don't know. This theory, built on a solid foundation of quantum mechanics, but there are also some involved, a concept that we are far from fully understood, the nature of consciousness, the essence of measurement, the essence of reality. Current quantum immortality theory, it is more like a fascinating thought experiment, and not a proven scientific theory. It shows some interpretations of quantum mechanics, extreme conclusions that can lead to this. He challenges us about life and death, intuition of existence and identity. But whether this theory is ultimately right or wrong, he also revealed some profound truths. For example, one thing is certain. You are alive at this moment. You are experiencing existence. You have thoughts, feelings, and consciousness. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we don't need the guarantee of eternal life. Perhaps the important thing is not how long existence lasts. It's how we use it. These moments that we do have. Because even if quantum immortality is real, even if your consciousness will last forever, now is the moment. You are watching this moment of this video. He is also unique. He will never happen again. In all possible world lines. In all possible realities. This particular you're going through this particular time. He will only exist once. So maybe the real question isn't that I'm going to die. It's about how I should live. If you believe in quantum immortality, then you know, a certain version of you will continue forever. Experience endless possibilities in endless branches. So, what do you want those future releases to look like? What kind of past do you want them to see when they look back? If you don't believe in quantum immortality, if you think death is a real end, then this will make life more precious. Every moment counts, because they are limited. Either way, we are all back in the same place. Here and now, your presence. This is the only thing that is certain. It's the only thing you really have. Maybe, the biggest revelation of quantum immortality is not about death. It's about life. It tells us, existence itself is a deep mystery. Conscious. This thing that you are using to understand these words. It is the most mysterious phenomenon in the universe. You are a collection of atoms and molecules. It follows the laws of quantum mechanics. But you are also the center of experience and perception. A starting point for subjectivity. Your presence. This awareness that you are experiencing at this moment. It is a miracle in itself, whether it will last forever or not.